Hi guys, so 2026 is off to a bit of a stressful start and we need all of the DIY mental health hacks that we can get. So today we're going to be looking at the science behind the relaxing effects of patchouli and also talking about some of my favorite patchouli fragrances. Hi, my name is Alexi. I'm a bald millennial gay man with a PhD in cultural history that I'm trying to weaponize in the fight for the greater good. I make informative and dumb videos about perfume culture, sometimes with research, sometimes just for fun. If you like what I do, please like, comment and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay notified about future videos. So patchouli has been used as a relaxant for decades. So I wanted to do a deep dive into the clinical studies behind patchouli and what's actually been kind of proven by science or shown by science to be the effects of patchouli. I'm not a scientist personally, I'm not an expert, but I am an expert in relaxation and there's a lot of science available, so I want to take a look at that. As ever, all of the studies are publicly available. I'm going to link them in the description so you can check them out for yourselves. So first we're going to talk about the science and then we're going to talk about some perfumes. So what does patchouli smell like? So to me it smells like wet, green and sweet in this kind of almost rotten way. I love it in a lot of perfumes that I smell. It's in so many perfumes, right? Even if you wanted to avoid it, you probably couldn't. It's a very versatile smell. It's often in bases of fougères and chypres and even ambers. Patchouli has been shown to be a relaxant, right? Science has shown that. One study that I've mentioned in the past showed a 40% decrease in relative sympathetic activity after inhalation of patchouli oil. So the sympathetic nervous system relates to your fight or flight response. It relates to anxiety. So if you reduce the sympathetic activity, that's going to relate to relaxation. And also interesting as well, rose had the same effect, which is great because rose and patchouli are often found in combos. I'm going to do another video on rose. Useful to note here that if you like your rose and your patchouli combos, rose and patchouli oil both show that they kind of contribute to relaxation. Yeah, I don't know about you, my fight or flight response has been crazy recently. If you're worried about things like inflation, war, unstable governments, regime collapses, your fight or flight response might be popping off, so patchouli is going to help with that. Another study found that patchouli reduces anxiety in children. This study mentions that patchouli has been used for a long time to reduce anxiety, improve mood, and increase sedation. That's kind of anecdotal evidence, but the study actually did show that pulse was reduced in children with dental anxiety. Again, your children might be having anxiety about more than just a trip to the dentist at the moment, but this study showed that there was a significant reduction in anxiety score and pulse rate. Again, mentioned here is lavender. Lavender was a bit more effective, but patchouli had a big effect as well. And if you're interested in lavender, I've spoken about lavender in another video. Another kind of more in-depth study looked at essential oil extracted by a farmer in Indonesia. So we're talking about Indonesian patchouli, and it had an antidepressant-like activity. This article talks about types of patchouli oil that enhances the dopamine level in brain tissue, right? It had an antidepressant activity correlated with dopamine induction. Raising dopamine levels, we love that. We need some dopamine at the moment. You get too stressed, you get too much anxiety, your dopamine levels kind of go down, or it affects your dopamine levels. And it says, yeah, more studies are required to fully elucidate the role of patchouli oil and its synergism. So they're going to be doing more work on this. So a study done on nurses this time found that patchouli oil reduced levels of stress and also increased compassion satisfaction in emergency nurses. Compassion satisfaction actually relates to the rewarding side of caregiving, where you get a sense of satisfaction from giving care to people. So the definition is that it's a positive feeling, joy and sense of fulfillment that nurses get from helping others, providing comfort and seeing patients recover. So if you are in a caregiving role, or if you're in a role where you're paid for your emotional labor, patchouli essential oil will actually help give you more compassion satisfaction, prevent your stress from being so high. And honestly, in general, compassion is so important at the moment. It's a useful one to check out for everyone. I feel like patchouli could be useful for everyone. Obviously, patchouli oil isn't a substitute for actual pay and time off. I realize that nurses do not really get this. A lot of people in caregiving positions do not get this. However, if you work for a healthcare provider and you want to write off a lovely bottle of Guerlain's Patchouli Paris as a business expense, I believe that you could make a case for that. So yeah, just show them these studies. Show them this video. Show them me telling your boss, give this bitch a nice bottle of Coromandel and give her 7 weeks off. And then another final kind of like wild card, patchouli essential oil relieved COPD inflammation caused by cigarette smoke in mice. So again, if the events of the last kind of few months/year have driven you to take up smoking again, might be one to check. A result has shown that inhalation of patchouli essential oil can substantially alleviate the increase in inflammatory factors, mitigate lung function impairment, and reduce airway remodeling in cigarette smoke-induced COPD mice, leading to improved lung function. Obviously, give up smoking. Not want to think of becoming a vape girly, or if you already are a vape girly and if you can't hit that vape enough to actually get relaxed, to take that edge off, patchouli essential oil, just try a little bit of patchouli inhalation. You might find that those inflamed lungs get a bit better while you wean yourself off the smoking or the vaping long term. So, relaxation, anti-anxiety, compassion, satisfaction, and for all of my cigarette and vape girlies, improved lung function. So thank you, patchouli essential oil. So now I want to talk about some of my favorite patchouli fragrances. What I'm putting on here is basically like something that gets as close as possible to like pure patchouli. There will probably be patchouli oil in all of these because these are like niche brands, they're good brands, or the sales assistants just told me that there was lots of patchouli oil in these. These are not necessarily in order, but they are 5 that I want to talk about. And my favorite is at the end. So we're going to begin with Guerlain Patchouli Paris. So this is a weird one. It's mostly a patchouli. That's obviously the main note. Bit of vanilla, musk, aldehydes, bergamot. These are all supporting casts, but basically it just smells like patchouli. It's from the L'Art et la Matière collection, so it's very expensive. So there will be lots of patchouli oil in this. The weird thing is, I smelt this, and when I was thinking about like describing the smell in my head, I just kept thinking, it's not X and it's not Y. And I realized that the overall impression I got is that it's not a lot of things. And I keep thinking about Persilase's review where he talks about like how it was kind of tamed and all of the awkward, weird facets of patchouli were removed. I think that's absolutely true. It's a lovely patchouli, but you'll find that it's like not a lot of things. You'll be like, oh, it's not very ozonic. It's not very green. It's not very rough. It's not very wet. It's not very cakey. It's not very earthy. It's not really very anything. It's really nice, but it's very muted. And also it doesn't really project very much. It's super, super, super quiet, which for a really expensive eau de parfum, I feel like, most people want a big diffuser, and also patchouli often does diffuse quite a lot. Yeah, overall, gorgeous, chic, creamy, neat, beautiful, a bit irisy, very quiet, vanillic, very elegant, a little bit dull. Those are my overall feelings. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is, of course, Chanel's Coromandel. This is a very interesting one. In a way, it's sort of like the polar opposite of Patchouli Paris because it is a beast, like it's monstrous. You really, really get bang for your buck with this perfume. It celebrates patchouli so well. Like in a way, it's just like a patchouli one note in the same way that Patchouli Paris is. However, there are so many other notes. Like if you look at a notes breakdown, you'll see like white florals, white chocolate, mandarin, spices, benzoin. You see all these things. But if you go and just smell it, it smells like this gorgeous patchouli accord reconstruction that obviously contains patchouli, but it has that kind of like deep, wet, sweet, almost like rotten, like leaves that have been mushy, turning a little bit gross, that kind of effect, like in a forest after the rain, just like wet diffusiveness that is so nice. It's just amazing. And it's really interesting because it's like so similar on paper also to Patchouli 24, which I'm not really listing on here, because Patchouli 24 is like an ambery patchouli, but the other notes kind of like cloud the patchouli. With Coromandel, I feel like it's so successful because the other notes help create the patchouli effect. Like any vanilla or sweetness in there is going into the effect that the patchouli already has, that kind of like wet sweetness. And any spiciness that's in there is also going into a patchouli spiciness. And any sharpness is going into creating a patchouli sharpness. So it just really feels like patchouli. Chanel makes some of the best perfumes in the world. I will say every time I try a Chanel perfume, I'm like, I know I'm not Chanel's customer. I don't know why. I go in all the time being like, today's the day I'm going to get a Chanel. And I just try so many of the Les Exclusives and I'm just like, this isn't for me. This isn't for me. And I love so many of them. I love Comet. I love Lilian. I love Beige. I love just so many of them. But I always go in and I'm like, this isn't for me. And I don't know who it is for. Is it for you? Like, I genuinely, are you Chanel's customer? If you are Chanel's customer, comment below. Tell me what makes you a Chanel girl. I have to know. Like, how do you know that you are the one? Next one I want to talk about is Perfumer H. It's a nice, like, kind of newish niche brand. This was crazy. So first spray was like a gorgeous sort of like airy, nutty patchouli. Other notes are like angelica, pine and cedar, which I think must be contributing to that effect. So like really, really, really uplifting and bright, which is a kind of feeling that you don't really associate with patchouli, but it was still a patchouli feel. It's quite ozonic. There's almost no wetness or squelchiness. No like wetness or squelchiness. So quite far from Coromandel. A little bit closer to Tempo by Diptyque, which I'm going to discuss next. It has this sort of lemony, soapy development, which is really, really nice. It kind of kept me guessing, but it always felt grounded in patchouli. So it was this kind of like plant-like, citrusy, nutty, incredibly interesting perfume. The notes didn't seem very faithful. I wouldn't have been able to like reverse engineer the perfume from smelling it. So I'd say smell it before you think, oh, it's not for me, because it really did smell like a patchouli, but just sort of like airy and bright. Not really floral, just like plant-like, citrusy, nutty. It's just really, really fantastic. I don't really know much about the brand. They have these kind of like nondescript bottles, which can be either hit or miss for me, because I find that a lot of brands do these like, you know, single note, like black and white bottles. It's a very common marketing tactic. I wouldn't have gravitated towards this brand, but seriously, it's just a fantastic, fantastic perfume. Let's go on. Diptyque Tempo. So can't do a video without Diptyque. Tempo's a great patchouli. It's a little bit ozonic, green. It doesn't go into that like ambery direction at all. It's like patchouli on its own, but brightened with notes that support the patchouli. So clary sage, violet, bergamot, bit of pink pepper. All of these notes basically just, you have the patchouli in the base and they kind of like elevate the patchouli, like adding height to the note, right? The diffusion is quite interesting because it has quite a soft powdery diffusion, and there's also some like spiciness in there, so it doesn't really smell super green. It's a little bit more similar to Perfumer H, which is like soft powdery green, a little bit nutty, plant like kind of creamy, rather than smelling like Coromandel does, which is just like this monstrous vanillic. It's not really like that. Almost like you probably wouldn't smell that you were wearing patchouli from the projection, but you know up close that it's got this like green patchouli base. I guess what's different between the Perfumer H patchouli and Diptyque's Tempo is in Perfumer H's patchouli, the kind of like wetness and like green base risks getting lost. In Tempo, you get the best of both worlds. So you get that beautiful top and you get the green kind of base. I really think anyone could wear Tempo or the Perfumer H one. They're very, very, very easy wears. So the last one I want to talk about is from Lush. Lush has a perfume boutique in London. I don't know how available these are in other locations, but I really want to talk about this because Lush is such an ally to the community. Lush truly cares about our relaxation, has always cared about our relaxation, has been caring about our relaxation. And I was so blown away by this patchouli perfume because I just went in and went to the sales assistant, hi, I just want a patchouli bomb. And she said, I got you. And time of the season, basically, it's so patchouli-ish. The sales assistant said that it was like 40 to 50% patchouli oil. It's so wet, So dark, so caramelly, cakey plus green, like boozy, like chocolate and moss notes. It just really, really, really hits. It's just like a patchouli. It's got a bit of grapefruit in the top to kind of like add some uplift. But if you want your patchouli bomb, just a bomb, like no nonsense, just a patchouli bomb, but you want something that's a little bit more than just straight patchouli oil, and you want to invest in a company that is doing good, I believe, please think about Time of the Season by Lush. I really don't have anything else to say. Monstrous projection, just like Coromandel. Like, also, I feel like such a troll being like, this Lush perfume is just as good as a Chanel. But I'm sorry, it's very, very, very good. And it has the same effect as Coromandel. So if you can't afford Coromandel, and you are pressed by, the history of Chanel, maybe think about a Lush perfume. Anyway, I'm going to go on to some special mentions. So I wanted to talk about Patchouli Patch from L'Artisan Parfumeur, just because I love L'Artisan Parfumeur. It was discontinued. Rest in peace, Patchouli Patch. I also would mention Conte du Levant, which is a gorgeous patchouli. It's a banger. It's a kind of bright, leathery patchouli, a lot of facets. It develops very creamy and kind of chic. The patchouli Rose. Rose is going to relax the of you as well. There, you could consider that. A couple of other ones that I haven't had a chance to try. Patchouli Mania by Fabrice Pellegrin, my boyfriend. Hello Fabrice. It's a kind of like nutty patchouli. One to think about. And Soul Patchouli by Virtus, which has got like a marshmallow and civet combo. Again, never tried it, but marshmallow and civet just makes me think like I want to know what's going on. Also, there's a perfume house or kind of like outlet called Labo that sells like, I guess, raw materials. I think it's quite difficult to get a hold of, but it's an Italian perfume house known for high quality nature focused fragrances. I guess it's like single note focus. There's one called 8 Patchouli, which is basically just patchouli oil, but like perfumified in some way. So please tell me about your favorite patchouli perfumes. Have you experienced the relaxing effects of patchouli? I hope you're staying relaxed. I hope you're staying compassionate. I hope you're staying calm. I hope you're finding ways to manage your anxiety. Taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other is a really powerful thing that we can do at the moment. So starting with self-care is actually like really, really, really important. So yeah, patchouli, patchouli, patchouli. And good luck, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.